One of the most common comments I see on different hiking groups is from people with dogs asking how to carry their dog's foods, and then people responding that they should just have their dog wear a backpack so that they can carry their own weight. I'm Bailey with The Most Important Step, and in today's video I'm going to be explaining why over the course of thousands of miles of thru hiking and backpacking, I have not really ever had my dogs carry their own backpack. So there's a lot of reasons why people have their dogs wear a backpack, particularly when backpacking or thru hiking. Some of those reasons might include being able to carry their dog food because their dog food is very heavy, especially on really long sections, as well as to give their dog a job. When I decided to thru hike the Colorado Trail with my dogs Prima and Skittles in 2018, I initially made the investment in a custom fit backpack, a ground gear backpack for my dog Prima, so that she could carry her own food. I had this pack as full as I could get it, really, based off of the 15% rule, and it was pretty big. I quickly noticed within the first couple of days of hiking that Prima's feet became really sore, that she was hot. I ended up carrying the pack for part of the time, and then ultimately sent Prima home. While that's a completely different story on its own on just how I had a lot to learn about backpacking and thru hiking, one of the contributing reasons was certainly the backpack. On subsequent thru hikes, I tried to use the backpack and slowly bring it in with less weight and make some changes over time. After getting all the way through the Continental Divide Trail where I carried the pack really the entire way, I decided from then on out that it just made more sense to not have a backpack on my dogs. As this is a topic that I frequently see mentioned and people ask me about online, I thought I would make a video on all the different reasons why I've decided not to use backpack based on those experiences. I do want to say that this video is based primarily on my own anecdotal experience with my dog Prima, who's a German Shepherd, as well as Skittles and my new puppy Brix. There really isn't much scientific research on this topic, unfortunately. Certainly nothing scientifically based the last time I looked. And you'll kind of get mixed messages depending on who you talk to in the professional industry, whether that's your regular vet, a sports medicine vet, other thru hikers, what have you. At the end of the day, you should do what's best for your dog and what you think is best. I just want to share the reasons why I don't use a pack. So the primary reason why I don't use a pack on my dogs is just because I feel they add a lot of extra wear and tear to their joints and to their feet. Prima really always had princess feet, and it was hard enough to keep them happy as it was just without a pack hiking, especially hiking in really arid and dry climates here in the Rocky Mountains and Intermountain West. And I felt like having that pack on the Colorado Trail just made her feet sore that much faster and would make it hard to keep them happy. Along those lines, considering that I'm on my second German Shepherd now, they both have done really well. Prima had really good hips. She had OFA good hips and good elbows, but she did develop arthritis throughout her lifetime. We discovered this during our hike of the Western Wanderer route when we were in Idaho. She was a little bit wobbly, wasn't feeling well. We went to the vet and they saw the arthritis in her spine. And so from then on, while she did really well with Rimadyl and was able to finish that whole entire hike and the Colorado Trail, it just would have added a lot of extra weight on her back that she really didn't need there. I've also always been really glad that I didn't have her wear a pack more when she was younger, because that probably just would have made her arthritis that much worse when she got older if she'd been constantly having that extra joint on her weights throughout the course of her lifetime. Since Brix is related to Prima and is also obviously a German Shepherd because of that, I feel like it's just not worth putting that extra wear and tear on his back and his hips and his elbows once he's old enough to be able to carry a pack. Obviously, he's too young for that right now. He's not even a year old when I'm making this video, but I don't plan on changing that even if he eats a lot of food down the road. It's also interesting because while I've heard some vets that are perfectly okay with their clients' dogs wearing backpacks, most of the vets that I've talked to that are sports medicine vets, so there's a canine conditioning page on Facebook with lots of people that have sports medicine experience and certifications, as well as one of the vets at my local clinic who's worked with racing huskies and racing sled dogs in Alaska, have all said that they think it's generally not the best idea, that if you do use one, you should keep the weight really low, and they agree that even though there's not a lot of research, they feel like it just adds that extra wear and tear, and it's probably not the best thing if you're going to be putting a lot of miles on. Which leads me to the other thing with wear and tear. Obviously for my situation, I hike a lot more miles than the average person with my dogs. We go backpacking once a month. We've done lots of thru hikes. We're just hiking a lot. And I feel like that extra wear and tear just adds up a lot more because of that. And so I want to be more careful to keep their joints happy so that my dogs can keep hiking with me well into their teen years, right? In their golden senior years. And I should say with that too, it's not just a backpack. I do also try to keep Prima when she was around, and then Brix and Skittles at like a good appropriate athletic weight, like a 4 out of 9 body condition score, just because I don't want that extra weight, even from fat on their bodies, adding to their joints. So while wear and tear is my biggest reason for not using a pack, it's not the only reason. Some of the other reasons why I don't like using a pack include the annoyance of keeping it well balanced, the potential for overheating, and dealing with it getting caught on sticks and brush. So to start with keeping it balanced, I've actually tested a whole bunch of different packs for Green Belly a couple years ago. I tested like the Rough Wear Approach, the Palisades, the Mountain Smith, Kurgo's backpack, and then I've also used my Groundbird Gear backpack, even though they're not around anymore. And it's just a pain to keep it balanced. You like use food or use something from the pack, and then you put it back, and then it's unbalanced again, and you spend, it feels like half the morning or half the day trying to get it balanced. Then you finally get it balanced, and then you take something out or put something in, and then it's out of balance again. And while some models are better than others at being balanced, and it really depends on the shape of your dog too, I just found it was really annoying to constantly have to stop and fix the pack. And of course, it is super important to spend that time making sure it's balanced, because if it's off balance, that just increases your dog's risk of injury. And so that kind of just stressed me out. Next, overheating and just being hot in general. I do a lot of my hiking in the desert and in really arid climates. Even here in Colorado, like on the Front Range and down around Durango, it can be quite hot in the summer, in the 80s and 90s, even in the foothills. And so that pack just adds a lot of extra warmth because it holds it close to their body. They can't vent as much. Of course, there's different models with different ventilation strategies, but at the end of the day, it's still just extra weight causing them to heat up more when they're hiking. I just don't want to deal with that. I personally have never had issues with rubbing from packs, but I know that can be an issue for some people and something you need to work out based on fit. So it's nice to just not have to worry about chafe when we're hiking, especially a lot of miles every day. So the last major reason why I don't use packs with my dogs is dealing with it getting caught on things. I do a lot of off-trail hiking on really poor and rundown trails. Just this last weekend, we were hiking in the Apache-Killed Wilderness where the trail was basically non-existent in most places. And it can get brushy at times, and we're jumping over blowdowns, pushing our way through overgrown willows or overgrown manzanita bushes or whatever. And that pack is just something extra that can get caught and then slow the dog down, or they can get stuck, what have you. It might be different if we were hiking more established trails more of the time, but I really don't think I'd want to use a pack in those types of situations. Obviously, like road walking maybe would be nice, but just for me, a lot of the time it's not helpful because of those desert conditions or overgrown trails. So in conclusion, I personally don't like using a pack for all the reasons I mentioned: wear and tear on their joints, having to keep it balanced, potential for overheating and rubbing, and then it getting caught on different things while hiking. But unfortunately, there's not really any hard scientific evidence to prove or disprove whether packs are good or bad. My personal experience has been that they're not great, especially when you're hiking a lot of miles with your dogs, but there are some people that do thru hike with their dogs. I would say they're the minority. Most people that are repeat thru hikers, in my knowledge, don't tend to use packs or definitely carry their packs for a good amount of time. But there are a handful of thru hikers that have completed long distance trails with packs. I will say they tend to be on the lighter side, probably less than 10% of their dog's body weight. If you're thinking of just using a pack for weekend trips, I tell people 1 to 2 to 3 times a year. If you're that kind of hiker, then it's probably not going to hurt anything as long as your dog has had time to be conditioned to carrying that weight. But if you're hiking a lot of miles every year for a long span of your dog's lifetime, then just know that there is a potential for that wear and tear to add up on their joints. I would caution you as well to just make sure you know that if you do use a dog pack, you should 100% be prepared to carry that at some point, particularly if you're watching this in preparation for a thru hike. Pretty much everyone I know that's done longer backpacking trips has had to carry their dog's pack for at least some amount of time. So that's just something to be prepared for when you're thinking about your own pack's capacity and food. I also want to say that I have hiked quite far distances with my dogs. We've done up to 9 days between resupplies. I've also hiked over 50 miles between water sources before while carrying everything for me and my 2 dogs. So, it is possible. I know some people have different health conditions and stuff that make that less doable, but if you're fit, you're used to hiking and backpacking, it's 100% doable to backpack or thru hike while carrying everything for you and your dogs. So if that's the only reason you're using a pack, it just takes some reconfiguration and making sure that your pack is ultralight enough, right? The other thing to keep in mind is that smaller dogs like Skittles, the reason she doesn't carry a pack is because 10% of her body weight would be a bag of treats and maybe a roll of poop bags. So it's also kind of like a sliding scale of where does the hassle of dealing with a pack, and of course finding one that fits, kind of fit in with how much they can actually carry. I've also seen a couple packs I want to point out that are extremely small, so you can only put a little bit of items in there. I'll put a link to that. I've not personally used it, so I can't endorse how well it works, but I just thought I would throw that out as well. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.